We're here at the AVPN Global Conference for 2025 in Hong Kong. And joining me today is Megha Jain. Now, Megha is the Senior Advisor for the Private Sector for the Gates Foundation. Welcome, Megha. Great to have you with us today.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Now, the Gates Foundation is very well known for tackling some of the world's most pressing problems. I'm sure things have changed a lot over the last few years with the advent of new types of technology, different sort of geopolitical issues. What are your priorities as we stand now, and how have they changed?
Right. So, as you know, Gates Foundation has been working across the globe for about 25 years now. And we look at 5-6 sectors in detail. For instance, we look at healthcare. Global health is a big priority for us. We look at financial services. How do you get access of financial services in an affordable way to, the marginalized communities? And we work across agriculture, we work across sanitation, gender equality, and education. So these are all 5 to 6 verticals for us, and we've focused on them for the years we've been in existence. And I don't think in terms of the priorities or sectors, there is a change for us in the last 3, 4, 5 years. It remains pretty much the same. Our larger goal of improving the lives of marginalized communities remains the same, right? And we're happy to do whatever it takes. In terms of innovation, that has been our DNA since the time we started. Whether we're talking about R&D in health, whether we're talking about R&D in agriculture, everywhere, the upstream work has been very, very important to us. So if you see, you can look at our work in 2 different buckets. One is how do you innovate with the innovators across the globe to find the products which are fit for purpose for the communities that we care about. And then how do you take those products and services and others that are available in the market to these populations? So the whole delivery part of it. And I think we are committed to both in every area that we're working on. So I would say that our commitment remains the same. Our areas of work remain the same. There is not a change in the way we operate given the changes that are happening around us, but we are very flexible to change our approach for what we want to achieve and our objectives and goals.
Those are some very big questions that you just posed.
Yeah.
How do you find the right, whatever it particularly it is, whether it's technology or some other kind of innovation that's fit for purpose? How do you do that?
So we work with innovators across the globe, right? We work with the right institutions, the right academia, etc., with the private sector as well, in order to work on the right medicines, the right medical devices, the right equipment for a smallholder farmer. And I think that's the network we have across the globe, right? We have a very large presence in US. US is the biggest office for us, followed by India, and then we are increasing our presence in Africa as well. So in a way, apart from being just a donor, we are also a convener in the ecosystem where we get all the different set of stakeholders together, where there is a voice from the community coming in, when there is an innovator coming in, when there is a delivery person coming in, so that we can blend everything in a way which works best for the communities that we work for.
So when it comes to financials, obviously, climate change and all the issues that are associated with that, there's a significant funding gap.
Correct.
This is something that you're working on, I know, as well. But I mean, how do you do that? What works? What are the financial models that actually work?
That is such a good question. I wish I had an answer for that, but I have an approach for that, which I can talk about. So, largely, we have worked with the grant instrument in our, work till date. And like you said, there is a big gap in climate financing, right? And in climate, we look at 2 different areas. So one is climate mitigation, where we don't focus as much. And second is climate adaptation. So even if you see the pool of funding that is flowing towards climate mitigation is what is receiving most of it. And hence we see that there is an additionality for us to work in the climate adaptation space, and especially from the agricultural point of view. So I think climate adaptation area is the area which we are very, very excited about. In terms of the capital and leverage, we also have started to think about how our capital can play a more catalytic role, right? Instead of just being, pool of funding that we deploy in our programs, how can we get the other stacks of capital to also come and do the work for, what we care about, right? Which could mean us would be a concessional pool of capital, which could mean a sub-market return-seeking pool of capital, or a market return-seeking pool of capital, right? The private commercial capital. So we're started to think about some of those models, that what role can we play as a concessional pool in a catalytic way so that we can get again all these actors together. It's still very early in the work that we're doing, but in the past we've done some interesting models across health. We would in a fund structure we've tried to mobilize capital from different kinds of players, whether concessional pools, whether other pools, but we started to think about it more deeply now, given the ODA pullbacks that are happening and the lack of development funding which is there in the ecosystem today.
And that's those sort of blended finance models really seem to be showing a lot of success in this area.
They are evolving, I would say.
Yeah.
There is an initial proof of concept, and I think our focus also is to see how they can scale up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because many small things have happened in pockets, but it has not all come together.
Yeah.
And that is the intent. That is what we want to, a role that we want to play, where getting everybody together so that they can be scale and be sustainable in a more meaningful way.
So I see you're quite cautious about those, when we're talking about these different financial models. How are you measuring the success of these models? And in fact, how are you measuring the success of the impact that you're having?
Right. For us, the only measure of success is how we are able to impact the community on the ground. Whether a smallholder farmer's income and resilience has increased, whether a women entrepreneur has been able to get access to the right credit, the right market linkages, so they're able to increase their income, and we take a very ambitious target of 20-25%. Whether a person on the ground, a mother, is able to get the right health care so she can deliver her baby in a healthy way. That is what is impact for us. Everything else is just working towards it, whether it's creating leverage on the finance, whether it's getting more funders, whether it's doing the innovation. But for us, success is what has impacted my communities on the ground.
So if I get you to look ahead for over the next 5 years, what is really driving you? Like, what do you really want to see over the next 5 years for the Gates Foundation?
So, I would like to see the program scaling up in a sustainable way, right? Like I said, we have done a lot of work through our grant funding, but we want to see how we can develop sustainable and scalable models on top of that. And that's also my hat as a private sector person in the foundation. So I lead the private sector engagement in the foundation, where I work with different teams to see how we can have more market model based kind of structures so that they are scalable and sustainable on its own. The theory of change is that if the private sector finds a business case in working for our communities, it would become a organic market model for them, and hence it would scale on its own, right? The leverage that we're talking about from different sources. So my personal preference is to really see those scalable and sustainability building up in the different pockets of work that we're doing, but it can be different across different teams.
Yeah. Well, we'll be looking and watching that, I should say, very, very closely. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.